After our last episode with Keith Faniff of the CT Mirror, we are continuing our theme of municipal government in the news with Jodi Latina. Starting out as a reporter, she bridged the municipal gap, serving the town of Wethersfield and in New Britain as the chief of staff. Most recently, Latina has returned to WTNH as their chief political correspondent. She joins us today to discuss her experience on both sides of that line on the Municipal Voice. We'd like to thank our premier sponsor, Digital Back Office Palo Alto Networks. Check them out at digitalbackoffice.com or paloaltonetworks.com. The Municipal Voice is a Connecticut Conference of Municipalities podcast in collaboration with WTNH LP 103.5 FM. I'm your host, Matt Ford. As always, be sure to give us a like and let us know what you're thinking in the comments. CCM's Municipal Voice podcast continues to present a key forum on important state-local issues. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect the consensus views of CCM or member municipal leaders. Jodi, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
My pleasure. It's great to be here.
So on the last episode, we had on Keith Faniff from the CT Mirror, and we were able to talk kind of about how newspapers have kind of pivoted to online and video. You've started out in TV and video. Tell us a little bit about what drew you into being a news reporter anchor on the television.
When I was in college, I went to Eastern Connecticut State University. We did a couple different core classes to get our credits, and one of them was a TV production class. And during the course of that class, we had an opportunity to, be either on camera, behind the camera, to produce, edit. We kind of went through the gamut of all the roles, and we were able to do a documentary. And one of my classmates and I really spent a lot of time together and said, you know what, we should start a student newscast. And kind of got bit by the bug at that point. I've always been very curious. It was always a staple in the house to watch the evening newscast, Dan Rather, Connie Chung. So yeah, I don't know.
It just kind of fit. Clicked. Yeah.
It fit. It felt comfortable.
So it's hard to imagine that being in television news has changed quite as much, obviously, as print news has. But what kind of perceptible ways has news changed since you've been in the business?
It's changed dramatically, and things that the average viewer wouldn't realize. We used to have those big satellite trucks with the dishes on the top to tune it in out at a live shot, and you would often see at a big story all these trucks parked on the street.
That's how you knew something was going on. There was all the vans with the things. Those aren't around anymore.
No. So it no longer looks like a moon launch. Everybody actually has the capability to go live inside literally a backpack. And so you'll see the photographers walking around with a backpack, and that enables them to get a digital signal. We can stream live on an internet connection, and there's no more satellites. There's no more fiber. The hub that we run our stuff out of, Massachusetts down to New Haven and even into Hartford, is all internet. So that's a huge change behind the scenes that folks would not necessarily know.
That's really interesting. Just that, what used to be this whole van is now a backpack, and, pretty soon will be in the phone. Like, we have cameras in our phone. Who knows when they'll be good enough for professionals to use? Probably not that far off.
Well, it is interesting because there's an app that you can put on your phone to actually do a live shot. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's the technology is still advancing. But I do see that somewhere in the future that will be the case, and you'll go live right from your phone. I'm not very versed on it, but the technology is advancing. I do know from a work standpoint, the workload is very different now. We used to do one or two stories, and now we're doing multiple stories in a day. So in the 5 o'clock newscast, I might have one subject to cover, and in the 6 o'clock another. And then we're leaving stories because we have extra shows later at night. So we have a show at 8, 9, 10, and 11. So you're leaving content, and additionally writing a text story for the website. So the workload is far greater.
Is that because there's just fewer people collecting the news, gathering the news?
I think it's a combination. I think it's less staff, but I do think the need for content and the fact that the news cycle is 24 hours a day. And as you know, being a former journalist, it it washes over. What
Yeah.
might be the big story today, by tomorrow morning is now gone, and something
Yeah. So
else
you can't just put
replaces.
out that one thing, catch the presses before they go for the day, or even the week in some cases. It's overnight, the
Yeah,
story can change. And if you're not on top of that, the other news outlets are.
it's bizarre to me because, as you know, some stories take several days to
Hmm.
unfold. And when it just washes over in the cycle, so to speak, um, as a journalist, it
Mm.
bothers me because there's still things to uncover, still things to talk about. So
Yeah.
it's, I feel like the need to pump the brakes.
So we talked first about, how your first stint was in television, because that's been kind of a thread throughout your career. But you have done a lot of other stuff. In fact, you left a permanent position to work in politics for a while. What made you decide to jump on to working the Linda McMahon campaign for Senate?
Interestingly enough, I had two very young children at the time. They were
Hmm.
toddlers, and I was working the overnight shift at Channel 8. It was a 3 a.m. wake up call, get to the station, and work through the afternoon until about 1. And then I would come home and have to pick up these two little kids. And
Hmm.
it was a really exhausting schedule. And I did it for 10 years. And I had asked several times, could I please change? And
Hmm.
management at the time didn't see me changing that shift. They liked me
Hmm.
in the mornings, and it just didn't work out. And so I said, well, I've got to change something, because for me, I wasn't a nice person at home because I was
Hmm.
so exhausted, and I wanted to be there for the kids, and I wanted to be there
Definitely.
for my husband. And so, you make these really life-changing choices. And so I decided to look around for another job. And interestingly enough, I knew the person that was putting the campaign together. And
Mm.
so I reached out and said, I would be interested in getting involved in whatever it is that you're doing. Because at the time, I have to take that back. I knew they were putting a campaign together. I didn't
Hmm.
know for who, and I didn't know for what position. So I sent my resume. I had an in-person meeting. I had to sign off on a non-disclosure.
Hmm.
Um, I met with the candidate, and within the first 10 minutes, I did not know who she was.
Hmm.
And we laugh about that to this day.
Hmm.
Got to talking, got into conversation, and she mentioned a little bit about her family business, and that her husband Vince was really the spearhead of their company WWE.
It's a few
And
events, yeah.
so in my mind, I'm there for an interview for a job, and it wasn't clicking.
Hmm.
So when we were growing up, my brother was a big wrestling fan. I mean, he had
Mm.
all the little the dolls, the
Action
ring.
figures and stuff. Oh, that's because they changed from the WWF when your brother was a kid to the WCW. That's what threw you off right there.
Right, right. So in the course of conversation, I said, I'm so sorry. I only knew her as Linda. I didn't even
Hmm.
recollect the last name being told to me. And I said, can you just dial it back for a second? Did you say that your husband was Vince and that the family company was WWE? And she said, yes. And then I was like, oh my goodness. So it was a very bizarre start, but we've become wonderful friends. It was a great opportunity. I immediately said yes when they said, could I come on? I was doing digital content for them at first,
Okay.
and then did traveling press secretary for the rest of the year up and through
Hmm.
the election. And it was fascinating to me as a journalist
Yeah.
to see how a campaign is built,
Yeah. What
how
kind
you
of things did you
prepare.
see coming from the other side, really, of that?
I
Yeah.
had no idea how much was involved. I
Mm.
mean, you're building from the ground up. I mean, talk
Hmm.
about grassroots. Um, and, just all the preparation that goes into
Hmm.
it, getting the word out and the message out. I apologize, that's the dog.
Hey, puppy. He wants attention too.
Yes, he does.
Your political work didn't end with Linda's end of her Senate bid. You then went on to working for the Senate Republican office for a few years.
Right.
And then
So
from there,
during
you kind of went into some town government, into the Weathersfield Board of Ed. How did you kind of make those leaps? What was the progression there?
So the leap from Linda's campaign into the Senate Republican office was because during the course of the campaign, you're meeting so many people and networking. And our campaign manager at the time was a former state senator. So when the rest of us needed jobs after she lost that campaign, we all sent our resumes in, and I sat down and talked to Senator McKinney and Senator Fasano, who were the leaders at the time. And they really wanted to expand their press corps within the caucus. And so it was a natural fit. And I was really grateful to be able to do that. And that actually allowed me to understand more the statewide offices and how the senators and the House of Representatives worked, the transition of a bill from committee out onto the floor. So that was super interesting to me, and I definitely learned a lot.
Just understanding the process of how stuff gets done.
Absolutely. Yeah. And with my background on television, I was able to put the senators in a position where I knew what the reporter needed in order to tell the story about the policy that these senators were trying to enact. So that to me was a great learning point. I feel like, going from the federal office down to the state office was super just helpful. Then getting from there into the Board of Ed, I said to myself, there's a need for a change here, because my kids at the time were in elementary school. They were getting off the bus to go to my in-laws after school, and the bus would stop at the house near them. There was no sidewalk, and it was a very major intersection coming off of Route 3 in Wethersfield. And I had these two little kids who were getting off the bus, and the bus was leaving and the rest of the traffic was going by. And I said, oh my God, they're going to get hit. This is not good. So my mother-in-law said to me, she waits in the driveway, but the bus takes off. And so I said, well, that's not right. So I called the school system. They said, you have to go to a Board of Ed meeting and try to talk to the superintendent. And so that's exactly what I did. I kind of explained the situation. They sent somebody out there to do measurements, take video. We followed up, and they were unwilling to change the stop. But what they did do was they instituted a new rule, and where the driver would have to wait until the kids reached the driveway. Because even in wintertime, you'd get snow and ice pack, and they'd be walking in the street because they could no longer walk on the lawn. So it really was a scary thing as a parent. And so you do what you do, you fight for your kids. And so that experience said to me, I need to get involved. I need to understand more about my local community and what's happening. And so I ran for office. I did Board of Ed for 2 years, and then eventually went on and did town council for 4. And so it was an eye-opener. I felt like, your local municipalities and the rules that get changed locally, those affect your everyday life. And that is huge, which is why when there's an election during an off year and it's not a presidential election, people need to get out and vote, because that is exactly what happens in your everyday life. People are making decisions for you, and you really need to know who those folks are. It's super important.
You are listening to the Municipal Voice on WTNH 103.5 FM. That's not the end of your local politics career by any means, though. Then you were working with Mayor Aaron Stewart of New Britain, a city that has been seemingly developing rapidly. Every time I drive through, it seems like there's something new going on. A lot of it kind of tied to like transit-oriented development and those sort of things. What was it, just as fast-paced working in City Hall as it seems from the outside?
Yeah, very much so. Mayor Stewart and I met in the Republican caucus. She was an aide for now Senator Kelly, who was the leader of the Senate Minority Caucus. And we developed a relationship and a friendship. And at the time, she was running for Board of Ed in New Britain. And so we would often talk about Board of Ed situations. And then when she ran for mayor and won, of course, everyone in the caucus was very proud of her and tried to support her. So we maintained the friendship, and eventually she was looking for a chief of staff, and she said, would you be willing to come on board? And I thought to myself, what a great opportunity. I'm not really sure what that person does, but I'm willing to learn. So like anything, you take the leap. And it was fascinating. I describe it as drinking from a fire hose. It was incredibly difficult at
Mm-hmm.
first. It took me a solid year to get my bearings,
Mm-hmm.
but everyone was super helpful. And it really is about making sure the train stays on the track.
Okay.
There are so many things that happen at that level. I mean, it's a city of 75,000 people, and you have multiple unions, you have thousands of employees, you have dozens of departments that are actually making this city run. And you have a very strong mayor who is driven, and she really wants to make sure that her city gets transformed into what she's envisioning and what the master plan holds. So it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. I would say you have to set boundaries, and she and I would talk about that all the time about, making sure that we took time for ourselves and our families, because you can get burnt out of that really quick.
Yeah. And of course, you have since gone back to WTNH as their chief political correspondent. So, now you've been part of local politics, and you've also covered local politics. What are some of the positive and negative, what are the challenges of that? Is it hard to maintain an unbiased opinion in the journalism side if you're working on the other side? How do you manage all that?
So that was one of my first concerns when I was talking with the general manager about coming back to Channel 8. They were expanding politics. They said, would you ever think about coming back? And it was always in the back of my mind because this was my first love. And I said to him, one of my major concerns is I really want people to be able to take me serious as a journalist and not think that I'm in the tank for the Republican Party, because I spent 10 years going through all of that time with them in various capacities. And he said to me, I trust that you're going to use your journalistic integrity and that is not going to be the case. And I really thank him so much for having that confidence in me. And for myself, I relinquished my Republican card, if you will. I am unaffiliated. I really go overboard to make sure that I am super balanced in all of my reports, because I think that is so important. And quite often, I think, folks want to say that I might be leaning one way or the other. And we've had those conversations, and I'm very open, and I say, listen, I'm here to tell a balanced story. If you think I'm being unfair, then you need to call me, you need to text me, you need to write me, and you need to tell me. And I have to say, over the last 2 years, no one has come out and said that I said anything wrong or slanted. We'll have conversations about you could incorporate this person into your story. It might help broaden the story. But I do have to say that I'm conscious of it. I know others are going to hold me accountable, and I'm hoping that I'm doing a good job.
Excellent. Well, just as a kind of a wrap-up final question, we're going to a gubernatorial election next year. What issues do you see as being important in the next year, and are you optimistic about Connecticut's future?
I think, you can't discount the fact that we're on the tail end of COVID. How that transforms over the next 5 years, let's say, is anyone's guess. We're seeing the ripple effects right now. We're seeing a lot of mental health issues with our children. We're seeing the economy try to get started again, but it's faltering. There's that workforce skills gap. Different communities are trying to reopen and reset, if you will. It'll be interesting to see how the hospitality industry comes back. What's going to happen in Washington? Are they going to get a spending plan? Is an infrastructure bill going to happen? All of those things are really going to set the stage for the next year and a half. So COVID, in and of itself, as the health issue, will also then trickle down into all these other sectors of our life. And I also believe, one of those sectors, which has been talked about a lot in the media, is this crime that we're experiencing. And I know that it's a quality of life issue, and that really is important when we talk about elections. And I know that a lot of the mayors and first selectmen are trying to deal with it in their own communities. There'll be studies. FBI has released data. The Connecticut Justice Center is releasing data. And I think it's hard because as a municipal leader, you need to work with your police department, but you also put in place policies that are going to keep your community safe. And
Yeah.
so it's an ongoing conversation. It really is. And everyone, I believe, at the table is really trying their best. And you have to look at the juvenile justice system that we have. There are so many things that have changed over the last decade. Are they working? Should we expand them? Should we dial them back? This is all part of that big conversation that's happening up at the Capitol.
Excellent. Well, Jodi Latina, thank you so much for speaking with us today. We certainly appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you guys do a great job. CCM is a great advocacy for all the municipalities across the state. I know that in my time working with you guys from the seat of New Britain, it was always super helpful. It's a lot. And I think the people of Connecticut are really lucky to have you.
Well, thank you. We certainly try. Jodi, take care. We'd like to thank our guest, Jodi Latina. I'd like to thank our premier sponsors, Digital Back Office, Palo Alto Networks, who you can check out at digitalbackoffice.com and paloaltonetworks.com. The Municipal Voice is a co-production by CCM and WTNH, 103.5 FM. Kevin Maloney is our executive producer, Christopher Gilson is our producer, Harry Draws is on the boards, and I'm Matt Ford, your host. Be sure to check out our Facebook page and give us a like, and watch out for our CCM chat series on our YouTube page. Hey, Korbi, how you doing?
Hey, Matt. How's it going?
Good. So I know we're all pretty busy around here this time of year, but you guys in member services are extra busy right now. I know you're getting ready for our upcoming convention, which is going back to in-person, right?
Yes, back to in-person since 2019. So we're really excited.
And we're going to be, where is it going to be this year?
So this year it's going to be at Mohegan Sun's Earth Expo Center. And it's a unique space that's most recently built compared to Sky Convention Center part of the building. It's very green, very friendly, and very new. The look
That's cool. So it's not part of the regular casino. It's a separate convention center area?
Yes, it's a separate area, separate wing that's newly built, the most recently built part.
Cool. And when's the convention be? It's the end of the month, right?
Yes. I'm sorry?
It's at the end of the month, the convention?
Yes. So the convention is on November 30th, which is the end of the month, and we're really looking forward to that.
Excellent. So, you know, if people at home are interested, like what kind of things are going to go on at the convention this year?
So this year we have a lot of fun things planned. We have our workshops, which people can choose to go to at least 3 of the 15 workshops we're offering. We also have a large expo hall, which is kind of amazing. And so really looking forward to connecting with all of our exhibitors that have signed up and that are continuing to sign up for that. And then we have plenty of networking opportunities. Most specifically is the receptions. Receptions are awesome that we have planned. One is sponsored by our other arm of CCM, so looking forward to that. And then in the late evening, post our awards dinner, we have our reception at Game On, and that's going to be a lot of fun. You'll get a chance to do bowling and karaoke, play games, and it should be a lot of fun. So
you've got kind of a balance of during the day, there's a workshop so people can do their personal development kind of stuff, learn what they need to learn really. And then after we take care of all the business at night, we get a little bit of chance to have some fun and, you know, mingle with other people around our peers. That's great. Now, as we said, we didn't have the in-person convention last year. We did a virtual because of COVID, obviously. And going into this year, you know, there was some debate as to whether or not we thought we could pull it off, but we're going for it. So what kind of safety measures are we taking this year to make sure that everyone stays safe and has a fun time?
I'm glad you asked about our safety measures. So what we've put in place right now, and they're subject to change, is checking everyone in at a checkpoint outside of our Earth and Expo Center meeting space. pretty much attendees will walk up, or exhibitors will walk up and show us their vaccination card.
Okay.
It can be a copy of your card. It can be a picture of your card, and we'll just match that with their state issued ID or driver's license. Also, for those that are not vaccinated, we will require a negative COVID-19 test within the last 72 hours. So
if they're not vaccinated, they have that option.
They have that option to, right after Thanksgiving, go ahead and, get that test done and, bring that with you. And we also plan on having a very small and limited supply of rapid tests on site for those who forgot. And in case you forget your vaccination card, there will be signage with a QR code.
Okay.
We're vaccinated within the state of Connecticut. You can kind of pull up your information or show us.
So there's a website that they can go to look that stuff up if they don't have it handy.
And either log into their MyChart or on that specific website through the QR code scanning from their phone and just show us their phone as well as their driver's license.
So we've got a lot of options basically for attendees.
There's many options.
Be safe but have fun.
Yes, we're doing it to be safe for everyone.
And has the Mohegan itself, you've been working with them? Do they have their own safety measures in place as well?
Mohegan does have their safety measures in place already. And
they've been open for a while, and I assume.
During the pandemic, yes. They have really strong air filters as well as special lighting that kills 99.9% of all bacteria. So there are safety measures on top of, us requiring proof of vaccination or a negative test, as well as mask wearing is another biggie. That will also be another added layer of protection for our event.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like we're doing everything we can to make it good and safe for people. And also fun. And speaking of the fun, I know you said that there's like an exhibit hall and stuff. I know in past years we did like contests for prizes and things like that, and like a passport thing. Are we doing that this year?
Yes, this year we are actually doing the exhibit hall passport contest. And what we love about it is it not only gives attendees a chance to check out some really cool and unique vendors that may be able to help them save money for their municipality. It also encourages one-on-one interaction with our exhibitors, which is great for attendees and exhibitors during that time. So if you're looking to do a specific project, you can be sure to go by your booth and maybe you'll get a prize, from that same vendor. And
employees, we're not allowed to win the big prizes?
No, unfortunately, no. This is something that's only open to our attendees.
To the attendees. Oh well. Yeah. But I can get some of the free pens and stuff in the exhibit hall, right?
I'll be sure to load you up with pens. Excellent.
Well, Korbi, it sounds like it's going to be a fun time. I'm looking forward to being there.
Yeah, look forward to having you there and all of our team.
All right.